Arto vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdam gritam ritam mahad Vasudeva sutam devam kamsachanuramardanam Devaki paramanandanam Krishnam vande jagadgurum Bhishma drona tata jayadrat Jalagandhala nilotpala Salyagravati kripena Vahani karnena vilakula Ashvatthama vikarna Gauramakara dhurya dhana vartini Shotirna kala pandavai Rananadi kaivartaka keshava Parashadya vachasarojam Amalam gitartakandhotkatam Nanakyanaka kesharam Harikata sambodhana bodhitam Loke sajjana satpadir Ahera hapepiyamanam mudha Bhuyat parata pakajam Kalimalatvadvam sinashreyase Yam brahma varunendra rudra marhutastun Fanti divyaistavir Veda Sangha Parakramu Parishadir Gayanti Ashamagaha Dhyana Avasthita Tatkatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam Navidhu Shura Shuragana Devai Tasmai Namaha Narayanam Namskritya Naram Chaivanarottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayet Jai Saparigasi Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Okay, so we have Gurudev. Gurudev's available to chant this. Sarvadukanam Anir. We're on chapter 2, verse 65, Constitution of the Soul. I didn't hear Gurudev. Oh, 65? Yeah, 65.
Atmapasyairvidhi atma prasadam adhigacchati Adadi dharma dukkhana hanirashu pujayate Prasanna chetasu chatu buddhi varjamapishthate.
Okay. So we just read the translation, let him do the Sanskrit. We're very grateful to Srila Avadut Maharaj for arranging Gurudev to chant these verses. The entire Bhagavad Gita he chanted in Navadvip on his veranda. And that verse we're beginning with is 65 in chapter 2. When one attains a peaceful heart, all his sorrows are dispelled. The tranquil person's wisdom swiftly becomes steadfast. Okay.
What does it mean, steadfast?
What
does it mean, steadfast?
Steadfast, steady, and not having ups and downs, not on a roller coaster, but steady, steady, steady. With good and bad and whatever mood or mentality, just continuing.
Wisdom, like wisdom is the capacity to predict a certain thing based on your experience. This is how I would define it.
Mm-hmm.
And then say the tranquil person's wisdom. So it means he doesn't have mood swings or...
No, his intelligence and his understanding and realization and mind, his like dharma buddhi, his spiritual intelligence. Like that, when you come to the platform of feeling at peace with who are you and understanding the environment, your place, your position, and your service, and knowing what is your purpose and how to live your life in the best way, then all sadness disappears when your inner core is fixed and it's in peace, and sadness is dispelled. And in this person's mind and their tranquil consciousness, one becomes just steady in that mood. So we sometimes see devotees like that. They're always steady. Good days, bad days, ups and downs. They're peaceful-hearted, and they're always continuing with their service in a cheerful mood, in a peaceful mood. And that's what Krishna is saying here. Sarva dukkhanam. All sorrows are dispelled. Comes to an end. Pari avatish tate. Steadfast. The next verse is more elaborating. 66.
Nasti buddhi rajuktasya no cha ajuktasya bhavana no cha bhavayata santi asantasya kudasukam.
Translation: A person bereft of self-control can have neither wisdom nor meditation. Without meditation there is no peace, and without peace, where is the hope for happiness? So, if one is a slave of the senses and has no control over themselves, then how can they be wise? Maybe they have some superficial understanding, but it won't be fixed in their hearts. Nor can they meditate. So without meditation, there is no peace of mind, and without peace, there is no hope for happiness. Like sometimes we see in the animal species how, like the birds, they're always moving because they have to be on their guard. So many predators around, they could get swallowed by a bigger bird or by another animal. So they're always shifting and can't find any peace. So here we're talking about a person who is living in the world, but if they can't control themselves, then there's no hope for happiness, then wisdom or meditation is not possible.
Yes, that self-control can be related to this first chapter of Padashamrita.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That means controlling the tongue and controlling the genitals, controlling the mind. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, sense control and self-control can be achieved by a virtuous attitude, just by a virtuous, pious, spiritual attitude, seeing that everything's meant for Krishna. I am not the enjoyer, I am a servitor, and in this way, in that type of attitude, it shapes one's behavior and mentality and consciousness, and then the senses become checked. If one thinks everything's for me, they'll indulge their mind, their senses, and this way have no control over oneself, just being a slave of the senses, being dragged by the senses. But if someone is feeling, actually these senses, this mind needs to be checked and controlled, and with the right attitude, that I am a servitor, nothing is meant for my personal enjoyment, it's all a creation of of divinity, and we are part and parcel of divinity, then let us be serving units, not exploiters. And in this way, this type of virtuous attitude brings one under control. It's at the seat of self-control.
One thing is to remember that time after time. And another thing is to carry this realization from moment to moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like remembering about it is nice, but how to keep this remembrance and carry it from one moment of life to another,
Mm-hmm.
without having to remember it, but
Mm-hmm.
by making it part of your vision and presence.
Yes, practice makes perfect. Srila Acharya Maharaj likes to say that a lot. By endeavoring and practicing with this mood and living with this mentality and always practicing this, then you become situated in that. So if you're every day reminding yourself and being reminded by others, it's easy in good association, because good devotee association is always reminding us what we're supposed to do and how to live our lives and in what mood of service, and always adjusting ourselves, proper angle of vision, and adjusting ourselves in proper angle of vision. Acquire the proper angle of vision. That was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's instructions to everyone. The right vision, the right attitude, the right consciousness, and the right association, and practicing, then you can achieve that in a steady way, in your daily life. So every day is a new day to try and become perfect by practicing. And Krishna helps us. If he sees we're trying, he always helps us. We take one step to him, he'll take 10 steps to us. He sees we're endeavoring and trying to serve him and correct ourselves and acquire the proper angle of vision. Then he reveals in our hearts. All the things we do every day help us. Chanting, Maha Mantra, Maha Prasadam, worshipping the deity, the devotees, the classes, the singing the bhajans, and all of our sadhana and our practices reinforce all the right thinking, and then we become steady in that.
To adjust an angle of vision, it would mean that you point where the whole character or the whole thing which you accumulated is not something which can be made better, it's just totally like
changed.
And it needs to be changed, but it cannot be changed at the same time. Because like the whole construction has to be changed. Not just something has to be adjusted a little bit.
Well, Srila Sridhar Maharaj says actually that can free you. The proper angle of vision, if you acquire that, that is a very powerful thing, and that adjusts our whole character and our whole lives. And we're adjusting ourselves according to Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, and Vaishnava. And living according to their directives and following in their footsteps by their example. And it says by the power of the holy name and the sadhus and the shastras and Hari Guru Vaishnava, one can be transformed from a crow into Garuda. Just an ordinary crow can become like Garuda through their grace. The whole character, everything just gets purified. So, by the purifying influence of Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vaishnava, then our character becomes purified, our personality, even the cells of our body transform, become spiritual. Everything goes through a wholesale transformation. But that happens gradually, generally. Gradually, everything transforms through consciousness, through Krishna consciousness. So sometimes we don't see that this natural modest growth, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj says. That's what we are best recommended, naturally, modestly growing in Krishna consciousness. And it may seem like we're sometimes even regressing, but Swami Maharaj Prabhupada said, actually you don't know how fast you're making progress, because this is very powerful. And he gave the example of the airplanes, that you don't know how fast you're flying. It seems we're inching along in the middle of the sky, crossing slowly the oceans and the continents. But he said, just open the door, and then you'll see how fast you're going. Just that analogy. So gradually we're transforming, and everything's becoming wholesale purified, our entire being. Oh good, Gadadhar's here. Dandavat. We're doing the Bhagavad Gita class, and we have Gurudev here chanting the verses. But yeah, I like very much hearing what's at the root of self-control. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said a virtuous attitude. By a virtuous attitude, one can achieve self-control, sense control. And that's very purifying. Just having the right consciousness, the right mentality, the right angle of vision properly adjusts our entire being and takes us out of exploiting tendency into a God-centric servitor. So a whole transformation takes place. Okay, let's go on to 67. Jai Shri Gurudev.
Indriyanang Icaratam Janmanu Pishiyate Tadasya Harasi Pragyang Payuranamo Vivam Hasi Tasmat.
As a boat on the ocean is thrown off course by an unfavorable wind, similarly, the wisdom of a person lacking self-control is carried away by even one of the roaming senses that the mind might follow. So we know it is famous, that mentioned in the Gita, that the mind is very difficult to control and it's like the wind, trying to control the wind. And here Krishna is saying, very easy to be carried away by even one of the senses that wanders off. And the mind can easily follow that. Just like a boat on the ocean, by a little unfavorable wind, it can be thrown off course. So, some self-control is necessary for fixing in our wisdom, our spiritual line. And really, for us, we don't need to make a painstaking separate endeavor to achieve sense control and self-control. Everything we're doing, our sadhana, following the instructions of sadhu, guru, Vaishnava, and taking Mahaprasadam, chanting the holy names, worshipping the deity, engaged in Nam Sankirtan, all these things will help us achieve. It will make us achieve self-control automatically. And we see others like the yogis. They're trying to control themselves. They're sitting and doing very severe austerities, sitting in water up to their neck and performing various types of extreme tapasya, austerity for this. And eating very strict diets, sometimes wearing no clothes. The Naga Babas, they're all trying for this in their various ways. But really the devotees don't even have to make an endeavor for just controlling the self. It's automatically achieved through bhakti, through the mercy of sadhu, guru, Vaishnava. So, especially Mahaprasadam, the prayers we sing, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explain how the most difficult of all the senses to control is the tongue. But by taking the remnants of the Lord, then that tongue is swiftly controlled and subdued and satisfied by Mahaprasad. So actually we have it very, we have a very easy program given by Mahaprabhu and our Guru Varga, and it's happy chanting, dancing, taking prasadam in this way. It's actually not for us to worry about. And we'll find one day by their grace where all our consciousness is purified, the holy name has revealed in the heart and blossomed, and everything is properly adjusted within by this gracious process and descending grace. But we do study these things and hear from the Lord and learn these verses and take them seriously. Okay, 68. This is chapter 2, by the way. Constitution of the Soul. Gurudev.
Tasmadajasya mahabahu nigrihitani sarvasa indriya tvastasya prajna pratisthita.
Therefore, O subduer of the enemy, one whose senses are fully withdrawn from their objects is a person of firmly established wisdom. So, we can say for in our devotional life, one who's fully engaging our senses for the service of the Lord, then they're well adjusted and they are being used properly and gradually becoming purified. And this is quite straightforward.
How do you engage your mind in service?
Engage your mind?
Yeah, in which way? How?
By, say you're in the kitchen, you have to pay attention. Your mind has to know how much dal, how much water, what time the rice needs cooking, when to add certain preparations and when to put the spice, and you're paying attention, using your mind for cooking for the Lord. And when you're writing an article or an essay or a book, you have to put your mind to it and concentrate and focus on what you're doing and making sure there's no mistakes and that you're understanding everything. When you give a class, you have to know what you're talking about. Put your mind to it. When you're doing anything, when you're preaching. So we're fully utilizing it in this various Krishna conscious ways in our service lives. And especially writing has been mentioned as like really requiring your full mind. When you write an article or write a book or an essay or a letter, some kind of spiritual writing that takes extreme thought, takes your full mind power. So, yeah, whatever we do, we're driving for our service, we have to watch everything and all the cars, and we're driving Krishna's car and this is Krishna's body and we have Krishna's devotees in the car. We have to really pay attention. Whatever one's service might be, they're concentrating and utilizing their thoughts and their mind for executing that service properly. Say you're in the kitchen and you're just spaced out, everything gets burnt, doesn't taste good, it's not suitable offering, you forget the salt, mindless. Is that clear? Does that make sense?
I was thinking this surrender. You say first you surrender, then you. So the surrender, because of surrender, you could be more fixed and not being disturbed by your own mind. But if you're not completely surrendered, then it means that your mind will be always trying to take you somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to focus properly in
Yeah, but you know, surrender is a process. We're accepting what's favorable, we're rejecting what's unfavorable, we're embracing the Lord's guardianship, we're surrendering in humility, giving our full selves, in this way following the limbs of surrender. And it's an ongoing process. So simultaneously, that's going on as we're making progress, and it goes into more substantial surrender. And in the meantime, we're practicing and trying to serve. Like myself, for example, almost 25 years, I'm living in the Mat and trying to serve and trying to use my mind and my senses and surrender. I cannot say I'm fully surrendered, but I can say when I am told to do my letter writing service, I have to be there and be present and do it properly. And when I'm giving a class or doing something in the temple, I have to really concentrate and do that properly for the pleasure of the Vaishnavas or the Guru.
What about when you have not been told something, but the environment is giving a hint of what needs to be done?
I'm sorry, this airplane. Tell me again.
What about those services when you were not being told to do them?
Oh.
But the environment is kind of
showing you
what needs to be done.
Yes, sometimes we find that happens. And when living with our Srila Gurudev for a long time, he trusted us. He was very empowering, and he would feel that his disciples knew what was good, what was wrong, what was necessary, what was not necessary. So we kind of just went with his flow. And when we saw something was necessary and performed it, he'd be like, very good. He'd confirm, like, yes, you saw that was necessary, you did what was necessary. And he'd say, when the ball comes to your feet, when one who can play football, the ball will always come to their feet. So it's like that. You have to be awake and alert and in the right mood and ever ready for service. And when you see something coming your way, then you can render that service for the devotees. And that's just a hypothetical situation, but I had many instances with our Gurudev where we had to make a judgment call. Should we do this for him? Is this what he would want? And do it and see he's happy. Sometimes not happy. We'd also have those moments. Or if we didn't do it, thinking maybe we shouldn't, he'd say, why didn't you do that? Towards the very end of his pastimes in 2011, he started seeing different beings coming into his veranda. And one day, some sadhu entered his veranda that we couldn't see. And Gurudev, we saw him gesturing to have the sadhu sit. And then he left, and Gurudev said, a sadhu has come and left without prasadam. Go and give him prasadam. And everyone was panicking. We couldn't find this sadhu. He was not visible to us, and Gurudev was clearly unhappy. Then Nanda Priya from Brazil, she just figured, let's make a place for him, clean a place, put an asan, offer a plate, and just pray that that sadhu can come and take that prasadam that Gurudev wanted. So that was the way she solved it, and I don't even know if he saw that happen, but from her heart she tried to resolve that and do the best she could to fulfill his wish. So, you know, there's the environment's always alive and bringing good news and auspicious things and bringing us service, and maybe sometimes we won't be able to do everything perfectly, but we're sincerely aspiring and practicing. So, yeah. And the safest bet is to always ask for guidance, consultation, like if you don't know if you should do something, if you have senior devotees around, you can ask them. If your guru is available, you can ask him. And consult with especially someone little superior and get some insight whether you should do something or not. That's always the safest thing. Okay, let's go on to the next verse.
Jadisha sarva bhutanam tasyang jagarsi sanjami jasyang jagrati bhutani sadisha pashyatu mune.
Translation. That which is day for the self-control sage is night for all beings, and that which is day for all beings is night for the sage who sees. So, that's a very famous verse. You probably heard that growing up.
Yes, I couldn't put Sanskrit right now.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it, absolutely.
Yeah. Just, it's a whole different reality for a devotee, a self-controlled sage, a sadhu. Their life is dedicated and they're devoted and surrendered, and for a higher purpose, for pleasing the Lord. And the regular people in this world are living according to exploitation. So complete opposite. We're on this devotional path moving completely in the opposite direction as the world. The world's flowing in the plane of exploitation, and we are going in the plane of dedication. So, Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, don't expect a parade to be held in your honor when you leave this world. You're leaving the material, mundane world of exploitation to come to the plane of devotion, going completely opposite direction. Don't expect everyone to like it, to celebrate with you. So we can also feel that sometimes we're going against the grain. And in the beginning, You might feel a little rub, little discomfort. As Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, no risk, no gain is the first stage. You gotta risk a little bit. What's seemingly risking our false self of understanding and our egos, our material so-called enjoyment, our apparent comforts. May have to risk some of that to gain something. And that middle stage, he said, is all risk, no gain. No risk, no gain. All risk, no gain. And it's only a stage that's seemingly that way. It seems like we're risking everything and we're getting nowhere. Giving up this material phantasmagoria for something we cannot see, which we cannot perceive. We have no substantial understanding. Maybe we have a little bit of faith, but we're going for it. And it seems like maybe we'll never get there. And he said the final stage is no risk and all gain. Once you've received the mercy of Guru, Vaishnava, and the Lord, there's no risking involved, and there's all gain. So that's how the path of progress feels. But any risk involved is seemingly, it's apparently, we're risking. It may seem like we're giving up our material life and our ego, but really what we're gaining is so great and so high, so noble. We're getting the supreme absolute truth personified connection to Him and service to Him and entrance into His personal domain and a life of love with Krishna. The infinite is revealing within our hearts. And what have we risked? Nothing really. What is very negligible? So, Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave that kind of set of analogies to explain, to illustrate that what it feels like for the practicing devotee, for the aspiring devotee on this path. Really gaining everything and risking very little. Okay. Should we do one more? How's our time? Actually, this is the we have 2 more verses and then we're finished, I think. Yeah. Three more verses and then finish with this chapter. Okay, let's do the next.
Samudramapa pravishanti jadavat tadvat kama janga pravishanti sarve sa shanti mapnoti no kama kami.
Translation. As the ocean remains full and unchanged through many rivers and streams entering into it, the person of firmly established wisdom attains peace despite all desires entering him. But a person who nurtures desires cannot know peace. So someone who is that established, like the Guru, heavier than the Himalayas, can't move him from his conception, from his devotion and dedication. Another analogy is like the ocean. It always remains full and unchanged, even though many things, rivers, streams, are entering into it. The person of firmly established wisdom attains peace, despite all desires entering into him. So really, when you got that one thing that has everything, when we adjust to the center of all centers, when we come to that one understanding that harmonizes everything, and becoming fixed and realized and established in that understanding, then nothing can sway us. Any desires that may come, they can come and go. Like mental mushrooms, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said. They don't have any root, and they can just be easily removed. Just by not addressing them, not paying attention to them, ignoring them, and tolerating them. They no longer control us or have a stranglehold on us. But the person who nurtures those desires will not know peace. Acting on those desires just fuels the fire. So that virtuous attitude, again, if we can just have the right consciousness and not let fleeting thoughts and desires and feelings and have a sway on us and drag us in the wrong direction. Just knowing, no, that will not be good for my spiritual life, that will not be Krishna conscious, that will not help me. Just ignore it. Then real peace can be achieved. Okay, let's finish this up. 71.
Vihaya kamanija sarvan umang charadinispriha nirmamu nirahankara shanti mahigachati.
Only a person who lives his life abandoning all desires, hankering, ego, and possessiveness can know real peace. Yeah, again. Just let go of everything. Let go of the desires, all the demands of the ego, possessiveness, and hankering for all the wrong things. Only then can that person know real peace. But for the devotees, yukta vairagya, we're engaging our senses, putting everything for the service of the Lord, and finding more than peace, finding satchit anandam. We're finding anandam, ecstatic joy, by using ourselves as instruments and being servitors. So we're after more than peace, and getting more than that through the grace of our Guru Varga and their teachings and this path of bhakti. And one more.
Eda Brahmi Siddhi Partha Nainang Prapta Vimucchati Thitva Shamanta Kalepi Brahma Nirvana Vrichati.
Translation. O Partha, this is realization of the Absolute, attaining which a person is freed from the delusion of mundane existence. Even at the time of death, only a momentary attainment of this state leads one to the divine abode. So we've seen those examples. Even just a little endeavor in this direction, and having even a shadow of chanting the shadow of the name, remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, that can save one from the whole cycle of birth and death and old age and disease. It's so powerful that just a momentary attainment of the state takes one to Goloka, to the divine abode. So we're dealing with something that's benevolent and generous and merciful. That supreme absolute truth is kind. We make some endeavor to approach Him. He makes more of an endeavor to approach us. He's a generous. One step to Him, they say 10. He'll take 10 or more in our direction. So we're not calculating here, but understanding we're dealing with the Department of Mercy. And that's our hope. If we were being judged according to everything we do, tit for tat, calculating, then really we wouldn't find much hope on this path. So we are hopeful and we're confident and following the best we can all these limbs of surrender and the teachings of our gurus, and chanting and serving the Vaishnavas, following the best we can, and with the first lesson we learned, never to make offense to the Vaishnavas, to the Guru, to the holy name, then for sure, even just a shadow of this attainment is substantial and can save us. So we must never be discouraged, and just try to keep steadfast. Be steady and keep trying every day. And I was reading recently, Srila Sridhar saying, everything may be defective. Everything may be defective, but still we are to continue. So that's
everything may be defective in terms of our endeavor.
Our endeavor, say maybe like even the society, the institution, the external things in our environment, our ingredients. Make the best of a bad bargain. And the infinite has infinite alternatives. Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, that's very hopeful to me. One door closes, another one will open. We're dealing with the infinite, so there's no end of the possibilities and the alternatives that are available to approach Him, to serve Him, to love Him. So much hope is there, and just want to keep offenseless and humble, tolerant and respectful. That will put us in the offenseless mentality and consciousness.
Sometimes I think that maintaining an offense-free attitude and by extension behavior almost comes down to some person's psychological makeup. If someone is a bit fiery or a bit impatient in their nature, then they're much more prone to committing offences than someone who's more placid or more subtle in nature. It almost seems like the make or break of one's spiritual life, whether they commit Vaishnava Aparadha or not, is dependent upon their notoriously psychological makeup. But that is probably something of a shallow appraisal of what constitutes Vaishnava Aparadha.
Yeah, it might be harder for certain people, but we have like our principles that anyone can follow. Even the fiery person can practice humility. They might have to try a little harder. They might have to try harder to be tolerant and to give honor. Go through the practicing endeavor, and that would be available to every kind of person. We find, Did you know Vaishnav Maharaj, Shrudashrava Prabhu?
I met him.
Yeah. Well, he was one of the most angry people I've ever met. But in Gurudev's presence, I saw one time Gurudev chastise him for something he didn't do and publicly. And he just took it and tolerated it and was humble and respectful and just said, he just took it as grace and said, there's no excuse for me, Gurudev. And Gurudev just loved him for it and kept him around that attitude. And such a fiery, angry person in Gurudev's presence would just to not make offense. We all have the potential of being purified. We have that prospect of becoming perfect, no matter who we are. So yeah, it must be harder for some than others.
There's always the prospect of redemption as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily a life sentence or a death sentence almost. One's spiritual life, if they're able to take steps to rectify it.
That's right. It's all a mood of service and being humble. That's really the solution. Trinadapi sunichena tararaja sahishana amanina manadena kirtanya sarahari. Just puts you in the right disposition to get the grace of the Lord and the Vaishnavas and the Guru, and to not have anyone envious of you and not being envious of anybody, staying in good graces. And Gurudev felt there was no other way. That out of desperation he preached this and practiced this to an extreme. Because he said, this is the only thing that works. Nothing else works.
Yeah, I love that saying.
So like that.
The Gurudev once, I heard a devotee say that Gurudev once made a statement about himself saying he's a personification or the embodiment of Trinada Pisanijina. As that did Gurudev make that comment about himself?
We say that about him, but he said this almost every day of his life. He had it, someone embroidered it and framed it. He kept it behind his head. He would this was his main preaching material. So I never heard those exact words, that he was the embodiment of it. It doesn't sound like him. It sounds more like a disciple glorifying him and stating the truth that he was that. But Goswami Maharaj did ask him, like, why are you always talking about this? And his exact quote was, Maharaj, out of desperation, because nothing else works. So, yeah. And we have heard of the three. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, if you can be tolerant, the humility and the ability to honor everyone without desiring honor in return, that follows. It's the tolerance that is the driving force in this practice. And we've probably seen this in our own lives. If we would have fought back and made a whole fuss about something, would have disturbed the environment and everybody in it and caused chaos. But if we're just tolerant and then we can be humble after that and give respect, how much harmony that brings. Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, by tolerance, harmony increases. And it's all accommodating. Everything can be accommodated. So maybe we just have to focus on that one first. And if we're having a difficult time being humble and respectful, just try being tolerant. And the rest will follow. I know I've seen that in many instances. I could have said something, objected, stated my opinion, intolerant opinion. I could have gotten upset, but I kept quiet and tolerated, and it created harmony in the environment and nobody was disturbed. And always, it's like taking the high road and getting a better result, getting a higher result. So that's all for now. Is it every Wednesday you're having these classes? Then you can begin with chapter 3, Karma Yoga. The hidden treasure, the sweet absolute. Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki